In the December 1st edition of Edit magazine, an interview with the actress Jessica Chastain appeared, in which she addressed her feelings on the 2016 presidential election. "I think Trump being so popular is really an example of why feminism is so important," she said. "Unbeknownst to him, he is bringing it all to the forefront, and I'm very grateful to him for doing that." This idea that Trump was bringing it all to the forefront echoes the similar sentiments in which the presidency of Donald Trump would force Americans to reckon openly with the realities of racial resentment, misogyny, and economic stratification that have gone unacknowledged or underappreciated in mainstream political discourse. This logic is one of heightening the contradictions or accelerating the crisis. According to acceleratethecontradictions.blogspot, the first instance of this line of argumentation can be found in Marx's 1884 manuscripts, in which he writes of the transformation from aristocratic landowner, with all the illusions of birthright and higher purpose, to prosaic capitalist, a shift which he claims will simplify and sharpen the contradiction between capital and labor and hasten its resolution. In 1897, Lenin fully articulated heightening the contradictions as a revolutionary strategy, writing, "The disciple of dialectical materialism believes in the present course of social development because he sees the only earnest hope of a better future in the full development of these contradictions. The first and last trends therefore strive to support, accelerate, facilitate development along the present path." According to this line of reasoning, the Trump regime acts, unwittingly, in the interest of the feminist subject by heightening, sharpening, or developing already existing inequities, thereby pushing society to a boiling point. Unable to live in the space of irreconcilable contradiction, the newly awakened feminist subject is moved to revolutionary action. In 2014, users of the V message board on 4chan created a female avatar to represent their movement and named her Vivian James. A representation of a female gamer, her name is a phonetic play on the phrase video games. She wears a green and purple striped hoodie in reference to the Piccolo Dick gif, later called Daily Dose, and wears 4chan's four-leaf clover insignia attached to her headband. Vivian was created under the auspices of Gamergate and as a response to feminist game designer Zoe Quinn, singled out by the largely anti-feminist 4chan as a symbol of corruption in video game journalism. Quinn was accused of sleeping with various video game reviewers in exchange for positive reviews of her work, although no evidence of sex for professional gain was ever uncovered. To the members of 4chan, design read as evidence of the insincere, opportunistic. 4chan believed that Quinn's feminist politics were false, that she was adopting the mantle of feminism for self-interested motives. When a Reddit user accused Quinn of deliberately sabotaging a game jam organized by feminist gamers, the Fine Young Capitalists, in order to promote her own game jam, Rebel Jam, members of 4chan saw an opportunity to pit Quinn against her allies in the feminist gaming community and expose her perceived hypocrisy. 4chan raised over $25,000 for an Indiegogo campaign sponsored by the Fine Young Capitalists, and as part of the deal were invited to submit a character of their own design for inclusion in the female-designed game. Thus, Vivian James was born, the feminist avatar of an anti-feminist community of gamers, bound together by their ironic desire to raise money for feminist gamers, thereby spiting other feminist gamers. 4chan designed Vivian as a fake-out, an appropriation of the language of feminist media meant to subvert and confuse. One user suggested, "Just an average female gamer to troll everyone. All the tards in the media will expect some sort of pedo crap or lol so random shit, and we'll give them just a simple average girl." From Reddit, approximately 14 to 16 years old, Vivian has red hair, freckles, and is a stereotypical antisocial gamer. She often has bags under her eyes due to lack of sleep from long gaming sessions, a perpetual look of veiled irritation on her face, and wears the same clothes day in and day out. Users declared her V's daughter and offered each other congratulations on the birth of such a beautiful girl. She is adamantly not designed to be a sex object, but rather an ordinary girl who evokes feelings of fatherly pride and care in her creators. She has red hair. Approximately 1 to 2% of the human population on Earth has red hair. Red hair is produced by a mutation of the melanocortin-1 receptor, MCR1, a protein involved in the regulation of animal skin and hair color. About 25% of the population carries the mutated MCR1 gene that, under the right circumstances, can produce a red-headed child. At birth, we inherit 2 sets of genes, one from each of our parents. Because the mutated MCR1 has weaker expressive abilities than its non-mutated counterpart, a child with one of each type will show only the dominant trait and thus will not be a redhead. Only when the recessive gene is paired with another recessive gene will the hair coloring and pale skin emerge, a 1 in 4 chance. Thus, an actress might have several biological sisters, all of whom display brunette coloration, while she alone struck the genetic lottery that expresses itself in red hair. Redheadedness, because of its rarity and tendency to pop up in otherwise visually homogeneous family groupings, carries with it a sense of being apart, of difference. According to Jessica Chastain, I didn't like looking different. Being a redhead, you can't fit into the group. I wanted to be blonde so bad. Like Vivian James, Chastain's red hair sets her apart. She's someone who doesn't go along with the group. A bit of a rebel, she is obsessed with her job, with getting things done. She's passionate and perhaps a little myopic. She's different. But the flip side of this special chosen status is a creeping insecurity, a feeling of alienation that might blossom into outright paranoia. To be redheaded is to be a stepchild, disinherited and without birthright. To be redheaded is to be haunted by the specter of illegitimacy. As I've detailed elsewhere, Chastain tends to play characters who, although they are imbued with a distinctly feminist agency, act almost exclusively on behalf of a larger institutional system or power structure, such as the CIA, NASA, or the family. In the 2014 film Interstellar, Chastain appears almost solely as the vehicle for her absent father's accomplishments, devoting her life to the pursuit of a mathematical equation that will save the planet, thus finishing his work and reuniting the father-daughter dyad. NASA functions as an institutional replacement for her missing dad, even providing her with a surrogate father in the form of her work supervisor. Like Chastain, Vivian James is an empty vessel for her father's ambitions. Both women mime a post-feminist language of personal achievement and professional success while acting on behalf of a paternalistic institutional structure that effectively ventriloquizes them, circumscribing the terms of their action and limiting any possible effects. What does Vivian want? What does Jessica Chastain want? We can't know because the reality she inhabits is flat and narrow. The impossibility of meaningful action or agency is a precondition of her birth. She is pure medium, an empty vessel waiting to be filled by the words and actions of her makers. The script predates her. To be Vivian James or Jessica Chastain is to be a contradiction, an avatar of female power and accomplishment whose very existence is predicated on non-action and inertia. This is an impossible subject position, simultaneously embodying the irreconcilable poles of action and inaction, agency and inertia, animate and inanimate life. Jessica Chastain / Vivian James is always acting, but never under her own power. To this taxonomy of female avatars, we now add a third, a brunette who goes by the name of Ann Lee. Ann Lee is a manga character purchased in 2001 for $46 by the artist Pierre Huyghe for his collaborative project No Ghost, Just a Shell. The character Ann Lee was designed for use in commercial cartoons or advertisements. According to Huyghe, he was interested in working with an empty sign, a support or platform for an external narrative. He invited several artists to make work with An-Li to allow, quote, different authors to speak through the character in a certain way, temporarily imbuing her with meaning and life. At the end of the project, Huig and his collaborators were faced with a dilemma: what to do with this entity that they had purchased and given life to? What to do with An-Li? The answer for Huig was to sell the copyright back to the sign. When you buy the character, you become the owner of an object. We didn't want to be the owner of that character, and so we went through a long discussion with lawyers. We decided that the character should belong to itself. We had to create an association which was called An-Li, and so if someone uses An-Li, there would be a trial. She gained back her identity within that legal sense. Paradoxically, this legal freedom or self-professed ownership is a death sentence for An-Li. The transfer of copyright acts to release her, liberating a fictional character from the realm of representation. The rallying cry of the revolutionary subject in times of trouble is to heighten the contradictions, to exacerbate the irreconcilable tensions to the point of rupture. This is trial by fire, and on the other side, the promise of freedom awaits. The offer is simple. The liberation of your spirit is the reward for a job well done, your suffering in exchange for your life. Some conclusions. 1. Jessica Chastain is the embodiment of a contradiction. Her very existence depends on it. 2. For Jessica Chastain, the movement of revolutionary rupture, predicated on a heightening of contradictions, will never come. Contradictions are the essence of her being and the precondition of her birth. Therefore, to heighten contradictions would merely serve to acclimatize the subject to future contradictions. To resolve them would spell her death. 3. Dad made Jessica Chastain, the impossible perfection of a woman born fully formed from her father's skull. She is his pride and joy. She speaks with his voice. He promises her freedom in exchange for loyalty. 4. The answer is always yes. 5. To be red-headed is to be marked, to await the moment of your disinheritance. 6. The artist Pierre Huig gave life to An-Li, but when the creative process ran its course, he, quote, didn't want to be the owner of that character. To free An-Li was, in reality, to free Pierre Huig from An-Li. For her, to be liberated by her father was to be immediately and instantaneously rendered dead, lifeless, without agency or existence. 7. Freedom is an exit strategy. 8. When Jessica Chastain's work is done, she is to be summarily dispatched by way of complicated legal maneuver that recasts her death as liberation. 9. Just sign here.